Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, very good. Good morning, students.
good morning, sir.
How are you today?
I'm fine.
I'm fine, sir. And you,
How
sir?
about you, sir?
I'm fine. I'm good, thank you. Are you ready to learn English today, this morning?
Yes,
Ready,
yes, I'm
sir.
ready.
Okay, so welcome back to our online class. So today's lesson, it will be about still talking about grammar and its adjective clause. Adjective clause, or also you can say relative clause. Does anyone know what relative clause is? Or you might be wondering what relative clause is. Okay, before that, I'd like to let you know what is or what are the purposes or the objective of our learning today. Okay, so the first is you must be able, you will be at the end of the lesson, you will be able to identify the social function and then the structure and linguistic elements of the text of relative clauses. And also you will be able to differentiate the use of relative pronoun in relative clause. And then at the end also you will be able to apply or to use the relative clause in correct grammar or in a sentence, in a good sentence. Okay, let's start. Okay, here are some definitions. So relative clause also can be called as adjective or adjectival clause. Yeah, here are some notes. Yeah, relative clause are clause starting with relative pronouns. So when we are talking about relative clause, so we will also talk about relative pronouns. And I hope you understand, or I hope you know what are those relative pronouns. Yes, relative pronouns is who, that, which, whose, where, when. Yeah, and the relative clause give more information about noun. Okay, when we use relative clause or adjectival clause, what is the function? The function is to give more information about noun. Person, place, object, idea in the sentence, it's called noun. Yeah, so relative clause give more information about those word or about a noun. Again, a noun, it can be person, it can be place, it can be an object or idea. You got it? Are you still following me?
Yes, sir, we got it.
Okay, so the next is the relative clause are non-essential part of the sentence. Actually, relative clause is not really essential, yeah, because it can add the meaning, but if they are removed, the sentence will still function grammatically. So again, relative clause is non-essential parts. You can use a relative clause. When you use relative clause, it means it will add the meaning. It will give some more information. How about if you don't use that, or if you remove that? The sentence will still function grammatically. The sentence still okay, but people might be wondering, or people still wondering what you mean. Still are waiting for the next. What is, for example, like the man? What kind of man? Because there are many men. Yeah, lady, which lady? Yeah, must be very specific. You must be specific on that point. Okay, yes, this here is, for example, the woman who visited me in the hospital was very kind. Right, the woman who visited me in the hospital was very kind. Okay, so can you find which is the relative pronoun here? Can you tell me which is the relative pronoun in this sentence? The woman who visited me in the hospital was very kind. Which is the relative pronoun?
Who, sir?
Who, very good. Yes,
Who.
that's right. Who is a relative pronoun. And again, come back again. Relative clause started with relative pronoun, right? Yes, a relative clause is started, yeah, or begun with relative pronoun. So can you find which is the relative clause here? Can you find the relative clause here? The woman who visited me in the hospital was very kind. Which is the relative clause?
Visit.
Here we have who here. Again, I have to remind you again. Relative clause is started with relative pronoun. Which is the relative pronoun here? Who, right? Yes? Okay, so it means because it started with relative pronoun, so which is the relative clause? Who visited me in the hospital is relative clause. Who visited me in the hospital is relative clause. So the woman who visited me in the hospital was very kind. So who visited me in the hospital is extra information. The sentence is the woman was very kind. Yeah. Your first sentence is the woman was very kind. Which woman? People might be wondering, which woman do you mean? There are many women. There are millions of women here. Which woman do you mean? And then you give information. Who visited me in the hospital? Maybe there is only one woman who visited you in the hospital. Yeah. So to be more specific which woman you mean, so you can add relative clause to give some extra information, to add more information, so people will not be wondering. The woman who visited me in the hospital was very kind. Okay, you got it?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, very good. Yeah, we move to the next sample. If you are wondering or if you have a question, don't be shy. Feel free to ask me before we go further. Okay, here is another example. Oh, a hotel, Palm Beach. Nice hotel, yeah. Where's the hotels located? Oh, by the seaside. So I'm gonna say the hotel which is in front of the beach is quite expensive. First, my first question is, can you find relative pronoun in this sentence?
Yes, sir.
Which,
Which?
sir?
Yes, which?
What is that? What is that?
Which?
Which?
Very good. Yes. Which is the relative pronoun? I have to remind you again. Relative clause is started with relative pronoun. So which is the relative clause here?
Which is
Which
in
It is
front
in
of the
front of
beach.
the beach.
The beach, sir.
That's right, which is in front of the beach. Do you know what is the original sentence here? What is the basic sentence before
The
we add
hotel
next?
is
The
quite
hotel
expensive,
is
sir.
quiet.
That's
Quiet.
right. The hotel is quite expensive. The
Expensive.
hotel is quite expensive. You understand that sentence? If I say the hotel is quite expensive, do you understand?
No, sir.
You
Because
don't understand. But
clearly.
I mean, the sentence can be understood, right? The
Yes,
hotel
sir.
is
Yes, sir.
quite expensive. We still understand. Yeah, we still understand. Grammatically, it's correct. But you might be wondering. You might be curious. There are many hotels. Which hotel you mean? Because I know some hotels are very cheap here. So which hotel you mean? Oh, the hotel which, and then you give the information, extra information. The hotel which is in front of the beach. is quite expensive. Right, so which is in front of the beach is extra information explaining which hotel. Okay, and then the next is the second or the third example. Who is he? A teacher or a doctor? Is he a teacher or a doctor?
Teacher, sir.
Teacher.
Teacher, sir.
Right, okay. Then the sentence is, my science teacher is a person whom I like very much. My science teacher is a person whom I like very much. Can you find the relative pronoun here?
Yes, sir.
Whom,
Whom?
sir?
Whom, that's right. Okay, and then which is the part of relative clause here, or adjectival clause?
Whom I like very much.
Whom I like very much. Correct. Yeah, that's correct. My science teacher. You can say my science teacher is a person. What person? Oh, whom I like very much. So it gives more information about that. Okay, you got it? Next
Yes,
slide.
sir.
Okay, we continue. All right, here is some extra information here. So relative clause can begin with this word. You can who, whose, which, what else? Who, whose, which, and
Whom?
whom, and that,
That.
okay, right. And then where, when, okay. Yeah, okay, here's some explanation. Who, when do you use who? How do you use who? Yeah, who it is used to refer to people. Yeah, when we are talking about people, so you have to use who. Example, the man who works at the post office is very kind. The man who works at the post office is very kind. Yeah, okay. The man is a person or a thing or what?
Person.
A
Person,
person.
sir.
Because the man is a person, so we use who.
Whom?
Yeah, who. Why do we use who here? Who? Why not whose? Why not whose? Because who is for subject.
Correct.
Why is it subject? Look at this one. What is coming after who? Works. Works, right? What is coming after who? After who is works. Work is verb. So because who as a subject, then the suitable relative pronoun for this sentence is who, because who here replace as subject. How do you know the sentence need a subject? Because we have works here as a verb. Yeah, verb is always preceded by subject. Before work is always subject, and after subject is always verb or predicate. Okay, and then whose. It is used to refer to possession. You know possession, possessive. Possession, do you know possession? Kepemilikan. Kepemilikan ya, possession. Ya, kepemilikan. Who is that dictionary? Or you can say, oh, another one. Have you seen the girl whose father died? Have you seen the girl whose father died? If we can translate into bahasa Indonesia, kamu pernah melihat enggak wanita yang ayahnya meninggal? Have you seen the girl yang ayahnya? Yang ayahnya. So the father, whose father, it referred to possession, kepemilikan. Yang ayahnya, yang bukunya, ya, yang house, yang what is that? whose house, whose car. Yeah, it indicate or it refer to possession. You got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we will
Yes,
talk
sir.
more about, yeah, we will talk more about the sample later. Okay, the next is which, yeah, whose refer to possession for all, yeah, for can be thing, can be person or people. Yeah, not only for people, but it can be for people, can be for thing. Thing can be animal, can be anything, any objects. Okay, next is which is used to refer to animals and objects, things. Yeah, it can be animal, not for people, not for person. It's for animals or objects. Example, I don't like the stories which have unhappy endings. You find people here? Stories. Is it people
No,
or thing?
sir.
No,
Stories,
sir.
people or
Thing.
thing?
Thing,
Thing.
sir.
Thing, right? It's thing, not people. Okay. I don't like this story. So, well, actually, stories, we are explaining, we give more extra information about the stories, not about I, but about stories. I don't like these stories. What stories you don't like? The stories which have unhappy ending, right? Because a story is thing or an object, so we use which, not who or not whose. Why we don't use who here? Why don't we use who? Because it's
Because
a
who
thing,
for
right?
people.
It's thing, it's not person, it's not people. It's not
Yes,
people.
sir.
Okay, that's right. Okay, and then why don't we use whose here?
Because it's
Because
not
it's
possession.
not
It's
possession. You can see the
possession.
difference. Okay, you can see the difference, yeah, the difference when we use whose as possession, who as people refer to a subject. So whose, after whose is followed by noun. Yeah, and here after which is followed by not by noun. It's not followed by noun. It can be modal or it can be verb. See, right? I mean, yeah, yeah. So here, stories which are a happy ending. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't like the stories which have a happy ending. Which here as a subject or object? Is it subject or object? It is as a subject. Yeah, which is for subject. Subject can be object. Yeah, which for people, animals, it can be for subject and also can be for object. Yeah, I don't like the stories which have an happy ending because subject after subject followed by verb. So here is verb. Same like here. After who as a subject is followed by verb. But whose, because it's as possession, whose followed by noun, not by verb. Noun first and maybe verb after that. You got it? Okay,
Yes.
the next.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so feel free to. Okay, do you have question before you go? Before you go further, do you have question? Any question? You can unmute your microphone if you want to talk. Do you have question? No? Okay, so we move. The next is whom. Oh, sorry for the this one. Whom. It used to refer to people and objects. Example like this is George, whom you met at her house last year. Whom here, all right, as a relative pronoun, and it replaces George here because the sentence here has a subject. You as a subject, met is a verb. So the sentence has a subject and verb, but the sentence doesn't have object. So we don't use George here. George replaced by whom. So whom you met at her house last year. So this is a difference between how to use whom. Yeah. Whom here After whom, subject and predicate. After whom, subject and predicate. Okay, so the next is where. I think it's everybody knows how to use where. Where's refer to what? Places, right? The hotel where we slept was excellent. The hotel where we slept was excellent. Right, where we slept. So the hotel was excellent, but we need more information. Which hotel? The hotel where we slept. Yeah, the hotel where we slept was excellent. For place. And then when? For time. It used to refer to time. Example, that was the day when my sister was born. That was the day when my sister was born. When here refer to time, day. Yeah. And the next is that. That is used to refer to people and animal. Yeah. You can use that for all occasion, for all things. Yeah. You can use for people and also you can use for animal. And it also, it can replace who or which. So it's multifunction, yeah. Yeah. The example, the blue jacket that she is putting on belongs to her friend. The blue jacket that she is putting on belongs to her friend. What does it mean? Jaket biru yang dia pakai itu kepunyaan temennya. So that here actually, what can you say? That replace who or which here? That can be replaced by who or by which here? You got it? You know?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So replace what?
Which, sir?
Which. Very good. That's right. So why it's replace which?
Because it's
Because
thing.
jacket, sir. Jacket is things.
Ah, that's right. Because jacket is thing. You cannot use who. That is not replacing who here because who is for person or for people. So this one here is a jacket. Jacket is thing. Very good. So next slide. Oh, any question? No? Okay, very good. Next. Okay, here is, okay, so this is just some more explanation and sample. Who or that for people. We know, okay, now how do we combine the two sentences because before it become relative clause or adjective clause. So well, actually the sentence has two clauses and then we join it together. We know a lot of people. They live in London. So there are two sentences here, right? Two clauses here. So now we join together. To make an adjective clause, we join it together. We know a lot of people who live in London. Yeah. You know how to join it together? We know a lot of people. They live in London. We know a lot of people who live in London. So we don't need to put they again here because they are already replaced by relative pronoun who. Okay. Next. Which or that for things. Okay. Two sentences or two clauses here. I don't like these stories. I don't like these stories. They are unhappy endings. I don't like this story. They are unhappy ending. They have unhappy endings. We join it together. I don't like the stories that have unhappy ending. So you don't need to put they again. They refer to stories. And then because they replaced by that already, you don't need to put they here. I don't like the stories that have unhappy endings. So we can use they, that replaced by they is replaced by that here. And it's which because stories is a thing. Okay, another example. Where are the eggs? Where are the eggs? They were in the fridge. Two sentences. So you join it together. Where are the eggs which were in the fridge? Yeah, eggs is replaced. Which is replaced egg. Okay, so we're gonna we make it a bit quick. Okay, whose for his and her and their possession. Okay, his kepunyaannya, her kepunyaannya perempuan, their kepunyaan mereka. That's right. Okay, we saw some people, their car had broken down. So look at this one here. We saw some people, their car, mobilnya, mobil kepunyaannya, their car. We saw some people, their car had broken down. We join it together, these two sentences. We saw some people whose car had broken down. You don't need to put there again here because there is replaced by whose. Whose is for possessive. So normally when you have to replace the sentence or the relative clause, when the sentence has this one adjective pronoun, their car, her car, his car, okay, then you can replace by whose. Become whose car had broken down. We saw some people whose car had broken down. You got it? Okay, I
Yes,
hope.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Next is how to use whom. Whom for people and as an object. Okay, an example is this is George. One sentence, you met him at our house last year. You met him. Okay. So now we change to be relative clause. This is George when you met at our house last year. Which one is replaced by whom here? Him. Him is an object, right? Subject is you, met is the verb, and then him is an object. Object here refer to George. Yeah, refer to George. And then him, we adjective clause, we don't need to use him again, but it replaced by whom. So the sentence become, this is George, whom you met at our house last year. You don't need to say this is George, whom you met him. No need him again because it's replaced already by whom. This is George, whom you met him. This is George, whom you met at our house last year. Okay, and then where? For places. The hotel we stayed there wasn't very clean. The hotel where we stayed wasn't very clean. Okay, so the next slide. Okay, all right, so here. Okay, so relative clauses, there are two kinds of relative clauses. There are two kinds of relative clauses. Now, okay, divided into two: defining relative clause and non-defining relative clause. What is the defining relative clause? It's necessary. It means the clause is very important in the sentence. It's very necessary in the sentence or to the sentence. The example is, the woman who visited me in the hospital was very kind. The relative clause here is very important. Yeah, we cannot remove that. We cannot drop it, but we need that because we are wondering, the woman was very kind. We don't know which woman. The woman who visited me in the hospital. Oh, the one who visited you in the hospital was very kind. Yeah, so this sentence is very important. Yeah, we cannot drop it, we cannot erase it. We need that. The sentence, this clause is very necessary. Okay, all right. If you don't say who visited me in the hospital, then we don't know which woman we mean or I mean. Understand? So this is what we call defining relative clause. Or the second one is non-defining relative clause or non-essential. This one is only give extra information about the noun. It's not really necessary because we still understand. If we don't use that relative clause, we still understand. The sentence still okay. All right. So we can say it's not really necessary, but it's just an extra information. Okay, the example is, yeah, Mr. Daulat Siregar, who is an architect, stopped by the class today. Everybody knows Mr. Daulat, right? Yeah, everybody knows Mr. Daulat. I didn't say the man, but I say Mr. Daulat Siregar. Mr. Daulat Siregar is the only one. Yeah. The sentence, the original sentence is Mr. Daulat Siregar stopped by the class today. People understand. The sentence has a full meaning. Mr. Daulat Siregar stopped by the class today. Mr. Daulat Siregar mampir di kelas kita hari ini. Then you want to give an extra information. Who is Mr. Daulat? Who is an architect? Who is the principal of SM Anggolo Cute Foundation? Okay, so who is an architect is an extra information. It's not really necessary, but if you put that, it will be more complete. Okay, because the sentence already understood, can be understood. Mr. Daulat Sirgar stopped by the class today. Okay, next is I live in London, which has some fantastic parks. London, everybody knows London, right? I live in the city. If you say I live in the city, which city? People may be wondering. But if you say I live in London, I live in Medan, I live in Bali. People know Bali. People know London. People know Medan. Yeah, so giving the what is that? This is the relative clause. Is just an extra information. I live in London. People understand. Oh, you live in London. Okay. Oh, I live in London, which has some fantastic parks. Okay, right. So here is an exercise actually. All right. Okay. Can you fill in the blank? What is number one? Quick answer. The engineer blah 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 wife was in plane crash. The engineer blah 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 wife was in a plane crash, work in a job in Google company. Which is the blank here? What should you fill in the blank?
Who, sir?
What?
Who, sir?
Whose? That's very good. Yeah. The engineer whose wife? Yang istrinya. That's right. Very good. Number two.
Who?
Who? Very good. The man who helps. Very good. Yeah. Right. Number three.
Who?
Who? Very good. Yes. Number four.
Which?
Number four.
Which?
Which is very good. Okay, right. Right, so now we are at the end of the lesson. I hope you understand. If you are still wondering or you are still not sure, you can always ask me question. You can send me an email or a WhatsApp. Or maybe we can repeat again later, right? So to make it, everything is more clear. I think we are now at the end of the lesson. Don't forget to review what we learned today, okay? Don't forget to review and then try to read again to understand what we learned today. So now we got to close our lesson today by reciting Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah alamin. Thank you very much. I wish you have a wonderful day, and then the next lesson will be continued by Mr. Handika. And thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.